Hi everyone, we're here with Ross Mayfield, who is president and co-founder of Socialtext. Ross, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Pleasure. Why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit about Socialtext and what you're doing here at Enterprise 2.0.
Right. So Socialtext was actually the first Enterprise 2.0 company. We founded the company in 2002. It was really simple insight that technology is emerging on the web that had better social dynamics than traditional enterprise software. At the time, we started off as a wiki company. We built it out into a very broad social software platform that can solve a variety of problems. But in general, it's about making an intranet more social and bringing new, more flexible collaboration and communication capabilities inside the company or between companies.
So one of the things we're talking a lot about this week at Enterprise 2.0 is how new social media tools and platforms help to surface information within an organization or within social networks themselves so that people can pick out trends more easily and that sort of thing. What's Socialtext's role in that sort of activity?
Your average knowledge worker spends a day per week searching for people and information. A lot of that may be I'm in a true research task, but just as people are executing their business processes, exceptions to the process happen, right? Because there are changes in the environment that the process was not designed to support, because there's new information to be had. So one of the problems, this is a problem that we end up eating into, and how the way for being able to reduce that time, which then later accelerates different kinds of cycles, whether they be decision cycles or product cycles or otherwise. It's all about building essentially a social layer inside the company. When you have an environment that is Twitter-like for microblogging, where people are able to very simply share information, whether it be status updates or sharing links. 25% of signals or tweets end up being containing links to other things, or basically having the ability to go to a place and ask questions and get answers from real people without forcing interruptions on people. That kind of open Q&A, that's an important part of having a conversation there. It's also about being able to have very flexible knowledge bases, so you aren't saying the same things over and over again. In general, if you have 25% of people's, or 20% of people's time spent searching for people and information, that means that search is failing, right? And there's other ways to find things, right? Whether it be social discovery, from seeing what's happening in the activity stream, whether it be the ability to ask people directly. A lot of the problems inside of companies is, the information just simply, it's hard to save people time looking for people and information because the information doesn't exist, it wasn't shared. So it's all about how do you create the right environment to encourage that kind of knowledge sharing. Both explicit, like I'm an expert in this according to my profile, or what might be more implicit from what people are saying in the different conversations that they have when they're actually getting their work done.
So in terms of ensuring that information is shared and breaking down by creating that social layer and breaking down the silos of information, I know you guys had a new revision of your product release this week, and that was a big part of the goal there, wasn't it?
Exactly. So we have an offering that's called Socialtext Connect, which lets you take all the different social applications in our platform and connect them to a traditional enterprise app. Yesterday we announced a new pre-built connector for Salesforce. We also have a pre-built connector for SharePoint. What's interesting about those is you're able to surface enterprise information. Basically, our position is you don't want to build social as a feature into existing applications, right? If you do, what that's doing is reinforcing that application silo and organizational silo, right? So just salespeople and marketing people using Salesforce.com as an example. It's much more interesting when you're able to unleash that information and let people that might be involved in processes downstream from sales and marketing, whether it be in supply chain or customer satisfaction or professional services, giving them the ability to do things like subscribe to a customer to get all of the updates for your most important customer. You want to capture all of that context, present it in an environment where you can have cross-functional conversations.
Regardless of where that information happened in the process,
exactly.
Sure that it's ended.
Right. So I may want to follow a customer in everything that's happening, not just in Salesforce, but also in an ERP system or inventory management system or whatever it may be. It's also interesting in that you have when you have products like SharePoint as an example, which is many things to many people, but it's also a general approach that Microsoft delivered because of its roots in Office. Very document-centric collaboration. It's really good at things like structured content management and document management, rigid workflows, rigid permissioning. However, it also means you're filing things in these tree and branch structures, and they get lost in a rigid taxonomy. Right? Being able to have an activity stream about what everybody's doing in SharePoint, and then in that activity stream, encouraging people to tag things, tagging the links that they're making, tagging the events that are being surfaced out of SharePoint and filtered appropriately. You start to develop this layer which makes things findable that weren't otherwise.
Just in our last few moments, I wanted to also ask you about, I had a chance to sit in at the beginning of something you called Bar Camp yesterday.
Yeah.
And crowdsourcing is something that we're focusing a lot on at Market Research as a new means for people to share ideas and let crowds determine the best approaches. And Bar Camp struck me as kind of crowdsourcing live.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that format and what Bar Camp is?
There was a guy who was hosting technology conferences just like this for years and years. He was reading all the feedback forums late at night and kind of recognized what people valued wasn't like the great speakers or this that he'd orchestrated. It was the hallway conversations, which is kind of natural, right? And so what he did was to set up and create what's called the open space methodology to recreate that hallway conversation as a format for a conference. It was adapted by a couple other people, and eventually I hosted the first Bar Camp, I think in 2004 or something like that. By now there's thousands of them around the world. If you go to barcamp.org, you can learn about them and join into it. But if there was a conference format that's like a wiki, this is it, right? All you do is you get a group of people together in a room or rooms where you have some Wi-Fi. And anybody at the beginning who wants to give a talk can stand up and say, I want to give a talk about topic X. And then they put it into a time grid where you have time and rooms, time and space. And you'll find within 15 minutes, a half an hour, you can build out 1 or 2 day conference. Part of the reason it works is some very simple laws, the most important one being the law of 2 feet. So you're responsible for your own experience. If you get bored in a session, go and join another one or spark up a hallway conversation. We've actually applied those for use inside of like our company meetings. We'll do a week-long retreat that is self-organized in that fashion. And we found that it always knocks off every single agenda item that we would have wanted to design, but lets people connect with each other a lot more directly. And part of it is the difference is when you come to a conference like this, it's not just the experts on the podiums that have something to share. The people in the audience may have something just as valuable.
That was the really fascinating thing to me is as people started throwing out ideas and saying, I'd like to talk about this or talk about that, other people would raise their hand saying, yeah, I've got some interesting things to say about that as well. And people would start merging sessions and combining sessions and rearranging them and really surfacing all of the information in the crowd. That was a really interesting approach.
It's really true.
Cool. Thanks for taking the time.